Hello everyone, this is the finale of What If Naruto Was a Prodigy called the Red Demon, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. 10 years later. Hidden Mist. Water Country. It was supposed to be a normal, quiet morning. And for a handful of minutes after sunrise, it was. The street cleaners were doing their rounds, picking litter from the roads and streets, and sweeping dirt from the sidewalks. A light dew had fallen just the other night and the dense fog of midnight lifted a little, allowing better visibility as the rays of the sun cut through the village's mist. From a few apartments and smaller householders, the low tune of the morning jingle for the village's popular radio station tickled the air. Curtains and windows were being thrown open to allow fresh air into homes, as well as the few rays of sunlight the sun could spare. The place would have looked sullen and depressing, but Itachi was used to it. Kiri woke up slow and carefully, like an old man who didn't want to pull a muscle while getting out of bed. For a settlement that was 80% urbanized and 20% countryside, Kiri defied all expectations. Compared to the bustle and constant fuss of activity in Konoha, Kiri's usual sleepiness was extremely therapeutic for Itachi, and the other shinobi who came to Kiri to spend their vacations. For their B history, it was understandable why the people of Kiri wanted to live the natural length of their lives in peace. The street lights buzzed and clicked off. Itachi released a sigh and pushed his hands into the pockets of his jacket, shaking his head when a Kiri police officer offered him coffee. It was a chilly morning. The officers, most of whom were natural citizens of Kiri, wore jackets and thick coats over their Chunin vests. You'd hope this was all behind us, Itachi mused aloud, shaking his head a little. Sprayed on a wall in harsh, red spray paint were two words. YAGURA lives. Sitting on the ground close to their masterpiece, with their hands cuffed behind their backs and their heads hanging low, were two teenagers, a boy and a girl who were barely 15 years old. They couldn't possibly understand the stupidity of their actions. Two officers stood over them on both sides, and one other police officer was checking the backpacks they had come with, searching their belongings. The policeman who previously offered his superior coffee shook his head, glaring at the teenagers. People but ideologies are immortal, Itachi muttered dully, looking at the downcast faces of the teenagers. He spoke to the policeman. Foul ideologies like the one Yagura has sown are a curse these poor people have to suffer. The Uchiha looked at the other man with a tired stare. It's like Yagura really is alive. The policeman spat. F that, he's S. Itachi closed his mouth, recalling that the other man was a bloodline holder. The man's family were TD and mutilated by Yagura and his people. For the vast majority of the people in Kiri, Yagura was S and gone, thankfully never to return. He was a 50-year blight on Kiri's history, and those that had barely managed to survive his reign as Mizukage, bloodline holder or not, slept peacefully at night knowing that the Hokage's praying mantis summons likely ate the Mizukage alive. A gloriously painful death for a poisonous man. Itachi, Naruto, and Konoha had worked themselves to the bone to erase Yagura from tangible memory. All of Yagura's people were put on trial and imprisoned far away from Kiri, adrift in a prison vessel on the Wave Strait. But there was a small minority, a very small population of people that wanted the Mizukage back. They were young children who had been poisoned by Yagura's ideology of bloodline hate. A Junin flickered to Itachi's side and the man instinctively perked his ear, flicking his eyes down to the folder the woman had in her hands. The Kiri ninja wore a grim expression, forcefully and pointedly not looking at the two culprits for the hate crime, addressing her superior. We've traced both of their families, she began, poking her finger at a passport photograph on the first page. Sawada Iro, the girl of the handcuffed pair, is an only child of wealthy parents. Her mother is a bloodline holder that survived Yagura's KG Institute. Itachi saw the bile rise in his ninja's tea, and how hard she was suppressing the mixture of disgust and fury twisting in her gut. She had also survived experimentation in the KG Institute. Her shark-like teeth grit, gnashing at the flashbacks, until she forced them open. Luka Hiroshi, the boy, his father was an ally to the cause before he was ked, reportedly by Mei Terumi. His mother is unknown. She made a sweeping gesture at both of the teenagers. They don't have bloodlines. Itachi's eyes darkened and he marched to them, and they forced their eyes down as their mouths twisted into grating frowns, visibly trying not to shudder in fear. The Uchiha poked the sides of his head with his fingers, snapping. Don't either of you have any sense? His eyes swirled and turned red. Ha! The two didn't offer any response, purposely looking down. The whole point of Yagura's life was the suppression and extermination of bloodline holders. How can you possibly want that? The shinobi that had reported to Itachi spat on the ground, fighting the snarl vibrating through her chest. He will return, the boy murmured, still refusing to look up. Itachi gnashed his teeth and bent his knees a little, tapping his right ear with his right pointer finger. What did you say? I said, Lord Yagura will return, the boy said in a slow, trembling tone, carefully lifting his head and looking Itachi right in his Sharingan eyes, no longer afraid of Kiri's administrator. The girl didn't share his courage, shaking and jabbing her elbow to get her friend to shut up. He'll kill all of you. Oh, yeah, Itachi said. He grabbed the boy by the scruff of his shirt and easily jerked him to his feet, shoving him into the wall and raising his eyebrows. Two officers rushed to Itachi, holding him back from harming the boy anymore, but the kunoichi didn't move a muscle. Rather, a hatefully pleased smile curled onto her face. Her calm boss hated Yagura with a passion. Yagura's atrocities in Kiri aside, the former Mizukage's role in Konoha's attack 10 years ago still left a sour taste in Itachi's mouth. Let's see if Yagura saves you from juvie. He wrenched his hands out from the boy's collar and spat. Make them clean this up and take them away. He turned away as his shinobi did as he ordered, uncuffing the teens and escorting them to where they could get a bucket and sponge to begin their cleaning. Itachi had walked that same route to his office every day for 10 years. Now he would have to constantly remember the hateful graffiti every time he passed that wall. Naruto had erased the position of Mizukage from Kiri following Konoha's successful invasion and annexation of Kiri 11 years ago. In essence, Hidden Mist was a colony of Konoha. Itachi Uchiha was declared the Governor-General of Hidden Mist, Konoha's representative in Kiri who was in charge of all of Kiri's internal and external affairs for the foreseeable future. It was an experience with many ups and downs. The ups came with Kiri denizens cooperating with their Konoha administrators, but only on the condition that Konoha maintained civility in their country. Also, Kiri cooperation is tied to their citizens and shinobi making up most of the population of the vital agencies, albeit under the general control of Konoha. The goal, after all, wasn't to erase Kiri's history and culture but to maintain the civility of the country, thereby maintaining a discouraging presence for Kumo and Snow Country aggression. It was a system that worked for the past 10 years. Sooner or later, Kiri would begin vying for their independence, but that wouldn't happen for another few decades. Itachi marched to the General Administration Building, the nerve center for Konoha's control of Kiri, and a pair of ninjas, one Kiri and the other Konoha, flickered to both sides of the door and opened it for their superior, who nodded distractedly at their salutes. He was immediately met with the cool breeze of the lobby's air conditioner and the thin, lemony scent of the recently moped tiles. The fluorescent lights embedded in the ceiling were on, shining light on the wide space. A handful of yards from the main entrance was the receptionist's desk, though no one sat behind it at that moment. The lobby of the building wasn't a waiting room, so there weren't any chairs for guests to sit on. The invitation to the building was strictly based on setting appointments ahead of time or being summoned by one of the office holders in the building. Itachi waved to the janitor as the man paused, and the janitor bowed deeply to the Governor-General. He took off his jacket and drd it on his right forearm, strolling with casual and unhurried steps to the elevator on the left side of the lobby, idly noticing the janitor returning to mop the floor. He tapped the button pointing up and waited. Itachi's ears pricked up and he looked to the left, then caught sight of Haku jogging down the flight of stairs on the right side of the lobby. The young man screeched to a halt when he realized Itachi was there, changing directions from the entrance to his superior. Good morning, sir, Haku said with a bow, tactfully hiding his heavy panting. He was wearing his shinobi uniform of a brown, long-sleeved pinstriped outfit that stopped at his knees, a green kimono jacket with a brown sash around his waist, of which the ends trailed down to his heels. The green straps of his sandals matched his kimono jacket and his nail polish. Finally, there was a hunter ninja mask in his right hand and his Kiri forehead protector was proudly displayed on his temple. Itachi raised a laughing eyebrow. Morning. I heard about those kids on your walk here. He bowed again, apologetic. I assure you, sir, my people are looking into how those children learned such terrible ideas. I trust you will, but don't forget about your other mission. Itachi turned back to the elevator as it dinged and swished open. He stepped inside and pressed the button for the 11th floor. A guard joined him inside the elevator, politely collecting Itachi's jacket and allowing the Governor General to neatly set his hands behind his back. For the time being, that other mission is more important. Reluctantly, Haku bowed, conceding. Yes, sir. Seeing the young man's downcast expression, Itachi released a slow breath from his nose and nodded to his guard. The Kiri Kunoichi stepped around her boss and held the elevator door open. Itachi said, whoever it is that's hiding the 6 and 3 tails cannot be doing so for the good of the continent. His lips screwed to the side and he said in a firm voice, we need to make sure there isn't another Akatsuki. Even though the original Akatsuki had managed to live and under the continent's radar, thanks to Yagura poisoning Am all those years ago, that didn't explain how and why the 3 and 6 tails had completely vanished following Yagura's disappearance on Whirlpool. I'll be expecting your update. Yes, sir. Understood. Haku nodded. Itachi's guard stepped away and the elevator doors closed. Hundreds of miles away, that same morning, Naruto steadily rowed off the southern coast of Konoha into the Wave Strait. Mikoto waved off her brother as he set off to sea. Oh. The fifth Hokage huffed, gripping the oars of the rowboat with both of his hands and heaving back, pushing the boat further off the coast. He leaned forward, easing the ends of the oars into and out of the water, leaning back and huffing. He did this repeatedly with his back to Konoha and his narrowed eyes to the still water ahead. He didn't stop until Konoha was completely gone and there was no land in sight. Powering east and rowing towards the rising sun, the morning sky opened up over the man's head and the orange hue of the rising sun spread over the world as if the sun were a weary eye opening to witness another day. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. Beneath the sullen water, fish and other marine life swam, giving the boat a wide berth. Naruto stopped rowing with the grit of his teeth, feeling the palms of his hands chafe against the polished wood of the oars. He held onto them, though, and pulled them back into the boat, neatly setting them on both sides of the inside of the boat. Naruto sat forward with his forearms on his thighs and his eyes closed, gratefully letting the warm morning sun pour over him, seeping into his thick brown coat and dark clothing. After a moment, Naruto grunted and reached between his legs for a bag. He unzipped the bag and gently pushed inside, bringing out an ornate white vase with yellow sun designs dancing near the sealed rim. The man took care to set the vase on the rowboat's bench across from him, trying not to jostle the boat too much as he sat back and riffled into his bag again, this time bringing out a solitary bark of wood, the one from Obito's god tree. He clasped the bark with both of his hands and pursed his lips, clenching his eyes shut. He inhaled a slow breath through his nose and exhaled from his mouth, shaking his head a little and wrinkling his mouth into a quiet frown. He set his elbows on his knees and pushed his laced fingers to his mouth, exhaling shakily on his knuckles. He closed his eyes as if he was praying. Why do I still hate myself? The serene quiet of the open sea answered him. Naruto shook his head again, clenching his eyes shut tighter. I'm tired of hating myself. The night 11 years ago replayed in his head. I could have been faster. Naruto spat, oozing disdain and hatred from his pores. He remembered how hard he struggled against Madara and his wood clones. I could have struggled harder. Red-black mist seeped from his skin and a low hum sounded over the stillness of the water. I could have gotten to you sooner. He remembered the panic his sister had been in, only for calm to sweep through her when Naruto assured Rin he would get to her. Tears prickled his closed eyes and he exhaled. I'm so sorry. The 11-year weight on his chest intensified and Naruto opened his dark eyes, looking at the vase with tears blurring his vision. You were alone, and I'm sorry. A soft breeze rushed across the water from the east, gently blowing away the hateful chakra emanating from Naruto's being, and a gentle weight settled on the man's left side, tilting their head on his shoulder. Naruto didn't move though, fixing his eyes squarely on the vase of Rin's ashes. You know I wasn't alone. The weight on Naruto's left breathed, and the smell of morning dew lessened the tension in Naruto's shoulders. And I'm not mad. Rin chuckled airily. Even if I tried, I can't be mad at you. Naruto didn't turn to look at her, blinking his teary eyes and squeezing them shut again. I could have released my summons sooner. But you didn't, and for good reason. They're fin crazy, she said in a rational tone. Naruto didn't say anything, unclenching the bark in his hands. I know why you're mad. Naruto shook his head, not wanting to hear it, but Rin insisted. It took you 11 years to come and say goodbye, she said laughingly, even nudging her brother. The warmth on Naruto's left side reached deep into his being, brushing away the loathing that coated his heart. She nudged Naruto again, and the man could feel his sister's wide grin. Goes to show how amazing I am, I'm unforgettable. He still didn't look at her, knowing that if he did, he wouldn't see her. But her presence on that boat, in the calm and quiet of the open sea, was undeniable. The rising sun shone just a bit brighter and warmer, and the air was light and breezy. Everything felt right in the world on that boat, and Naruto sniffed, rubbing at his red eyes. Why are you so perfect? Rin laughed a little, tossing an arm over Naruto's shoulders and shaking him in a tight, comforting hug. Look who's talking. Naruto scoffed laughingly. Stop flirting. You're ruining the mood. You started it, she answered, affronted by his audacity to blame her. The mood steadily calmed, but Rin didn't unravel her arms from Naruto's shoulders, leaning her head against him. He said to her, looking at the bark of wood in his hands, do you remember our promise? He forged ahead, trying not to fumble his words. We were going to move to Whirlpool and live out our lives, maybe adopt a few kids, help rebuild the island. Rin sighed wistfully. Yeah, I remember. I still want that, Naruto confessed, pouring out his heart as he bore his eyes onto that piece of bark in his hands. But, he wilted, and so did Rin, no thanks to me, Whirlpool isn't close to recovering, and you're not. His sister embraced the man firmer, saying what he was too scared to say, alive. She nodded into Naruto's shoulder. I'm not alive. You're not, Naruto confirmed in a wavering voice. Doesn't mean you can't still have all of that. The life in Whirlpool, and the kids. Naruto's connection with Rin allowed him to know exactly what she meant. The Uzumaki clan were living in Konoha and had been integrated into the village's life. Whirlpool Island was finished, but the people were thriving. I won't hold you back from living your life, Naruto. I never will. It won't be the same. I know it won't, Rin said with a trying smile, fighting to keep the smile on her bright expression. It'll be different, and it'll be better. I promise it will. The piece of bark in Naruto's hand began to get warmer. Seems Grandpa Hamura says I have to go. This time, Naruto turned to his left and he saw her. She was exactly how he remembered her. Her deep purple eyes glittered and her broad smile shone. Liquid emotion rushed from Naruto's red eyes and sadness broke him. She put a hand on his chest, over his heart, and she promised. I'll never be far. She grinned cheekily, as the bark in Naruto's hand began to disintegrate into dust, floating up to the heavens as she remarked, not, like, in a stalker way. Tears swelled her chest and she spread her hand across his chest, smiling bravely and trying not to cry. Like your very own guardian angel. Naruto snorted, refusing to wipe his eyes from the tears that blurred his vision, afraid that doing that would take her away somehow. But even though his eyes were clouded by tears and hot emotion, her face was ever visible. He reached for her sides and his hands grasped nothing. It won't be the same. The tears fell openly and Rin smiled gently, setting her hands on Naruto's face as he finished, it'll be different. Better. I knew you'd get it. Their lips met, for only a split second, before Rin began to disintegrate. Her bright form lifted to the sky, her hands slowly slipped from Naruto's face and her wide smile didn't once falter on her glowing expression. The lid of the vase popped off and Rin's ashes rose into the air, converging on the Rin's bright form and also crumbling to nothing. Thank you for everything. Naruto got up from the boat as if he wanted to fly back into her arms. I'll never forget you. Her answer was a happy smile, then she was gone. Her brightness was gone, but her warmth remained. Naruto looked to the sky, his cheeks wet with tears and his red eyes finally gleaming with happiness. He proclaimed to the heavens and the world. I'll never forget you. It wasn't easy and it didn't happen quickly, even after Naruto bid his sister a proper goodbye, but Naruto was finally able to move on to make his personal life thrive. As the Hokage and the Red Demon, he oversaw decades of Konoha dominance on the continent, in military and trade relations, and several other aspects. As a father, a grandfather, and a great-grandfather, He was celebrated as a man who would go to inhuman lengths to protect his family, not always the most expressive or emotional but still showing his abundant love through acts of service. His extensive family, the Hidden Leaf, Fire Country, and the rest of the continent knew too well of the legacy of the Red Demon. His name was not forgotten. His name could not be forgotten. After Naruto was gone from the world and passed into the afterlife to reunite with Rin, the Red Demon still lived in the hearts and minds of his people. A declaration of unity and bravery for Konoha citizens. A reminder for his family to show unending and love to each other, through thick and thin, no matter what. An inspiration of encouragement to friends and allies. A fearful memory of death and bloodshed for enemies of the Wall of Fire. The Red Demon is a legend that could never cease. His was a legacy for the ages. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.